Welcome to the Angel Mystic podcast. I am super excited you are listening because this is where spiritually open minds can come together to explore the wonders of angels, spiritual connections, and the art of manifesting. Hosted by me, Amanda Tooke, the Angel Mystic, your spiritual midwife to help you on your journey to a fulfilling and happy life. You may have seen me on ITV, Channel 4, or even in Fate and Fortune magazine. In each episode, we will delve into the mystical world of angels, offering you insights, guidance, practical tools to deepen your connection with the upstairs so that you can find inner peace, happiness, joy, and create the life that you want. Tune in for weekly, fun conversations, transformational insights that will elevate your spiritual journey and awaken your inner mystic. Please hit subscribe now as we embark on a transformational adventure with the Angel Mystic podcast. Welcome back to the podcast, and this is a special one because I am going to be sharing somebody really behind the scenes in my life with you. And I was always thinking about preparing for this podcast. I'm starting to feel like these podcasts are turning into a bit more of my, confessions and what I do, and sharing more of my personal stories and my struggles as well. But do you know what? I am so transparent. And I would never want anyone to think that, my life is sorted. I am on a journey just like the rest of us. And if sharing some of my journey is going to help other people, I am totally okay with that. So let me introduce you today to Jeff. Jeff is a master coach specializing in NLP, timeline therapy. He works with confidence, with ADHD people, and he's my go-to person when I need a reset with something in my life. He's sorted out loads of different things for me. So we are going to be talking about healing emotional blocks in this podcast today, the truth about ADHD, and maybe this is going to help you overcome some of your challenges too. I really do hope so. So let me introduce you to Jeff, who is like my NLP buddy, but more professionally, he is a master coach and soon to be accredited in something very exciting, which I'm sure he'll tell us about. So welcome, Jeff, to the podcast.
Thank you. What a wonderful introduction. I'm going to have to live up to that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I'm really excited.
Good. There's absolutely no pressure. No pressure. I already know that you're great. So yeah, welcome to the podcast, and it's lovely to have you on here. We actually met, I don't know, it was before lockdown anyway. I think it was just before the start of all that nonsense. And you were helping out on an NLP course that I was on, and we got paired up, didn't we?
We did,
sort of hit it off, and you have actually cleared my timeline. You've been really, important in my self-development in terms of like when I'm having a wobble, I'm like, I message you, Jeff, I need some NLP. Jeff, sort me out, because I am totally hooked on NLP and timeline therapy. I think it is the best personal development tool I absolutely know. So I'm delighted that we're talking about it today, because it's a hard thing to explain to people when they perhaps don't have any understanding of it. I mean, I did an NLP session and timeline clearing yesterday, and the lady said to me, you just can't put it into words what happens, because you're so used to working with your conscious brain that'll tell you that reliving all these painful memories is going to be like devastating. And it is just not. It really is not.
Absolutely. And we spend so much time living in our heads in the modern world, don't we? And we try and understand it rationally. And I spend a lot of time with my clients getting to the point where they trust the process and they trust me enough to go into it, because it does go deep very quickly, but clears out so much stuff that sometimes you don't even know is there. But I think once you let go of trying to understand the process and realize I'm going to come out the other side a better person with a clearer mind, with loads of emotional stuff cleared out, then that's when the beauty comes from it. And it's about the trust in yourself, trust in the coach that you're working with, and going with the process and not trying to mentally, logically, rationally understand it, because I don't think anybody does, to be honest. You know, we just know that it works.
Yeah, I always say it's going to be the most bonkers afternoon you're ever going to have. You're going to sit there with your eyes closed, just say the first thing that comes to mind, and that might sound like a gobbledygook and rubbish, but it
Absolutely.
works. It absolutely works.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
how did you get into NLP?
It's a strange one, actually, because I knew about NLP about 20 years before I actually got involved with it, because I've had a coach all my life since I was 19, and she talked about it, my first coach, back when I was like 20 years old. And I wonder why I didn't pick up on it then. But I think NLP, for me, you come across it when you need it. It's really strange. I think, I don't know, it's got a way of finding you when you need it. So fast forward, I was in my 40s. I must have been like 40 odd. And I was working for a big financial institution, and they asked me what training I wanted. And I was in a role where I had all the skills for, so I didn't need anything for the job. And I said, well, I've always been interested in NLP. So I researched it, and I came across this course because previous to that, I'd done lots of different coaching qualifications, but I always felt there was something missing, and I was getting like really good results and then not so good results. And I think you've got to be in the right mindset for coaching to work, because if you don't want it to work, or you're not totally committed to making the change, it doesn't happen. And I always felt there was a missing piece. And then when I went to this course, I was doing it for work initially, and then I sat in this course and I'm like, this is the missing piece for all the coaching. No, you can have all these tools and techniques, but if you can't get that person into a state where they're ready to change and excited for that change, it doesn't happen. And all of a sudden, I could see that this NLP was the missing piece. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. So I think it was day 2 when I realized, and it dawned on me, actually, this is what I need to be doing. And I rang my manager that day and said, look, I need to go part-time so I can do the coaching and the job at the same time. And that's what I did. So that's how I got introduced to it. And as soon as I started using it, I was really lucky because I was people and performance manager. So I had a team of 43 people at the time. So a load of people that I could practice with. So I did a lot of NLP very quickly. So my skill set built really quickly, and I learned a lot, so that when I went out into the real world, shall we say, I had a lot of experience behind me. So I was very fortunate to be able to put that practice in. Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
good. I know that you've helped me with 2 things that really come to mind. Is when I was particularly I nearly died in hospital, and you helped me with the trauma I had on the back of that coming home, because every time I closed my eyes, I kept seeing this doctor's face looking over me, saying, we're going to need to intubate you. And I just couldn't get out of that cycle. I was like, PTSD going on. And also with a dentist phobia. And NLP has been brilliant on both of those occasions. And I know that I've worked with lots of clients that have had, fears and phobias. In fact, my daughter-in-law had a frog, ironically, a frog phobia, which, when you're in the middle of Centre Parks or something like that, and she's like screaming because there's a frog going up the path, it's not always convenient, is it? And it clears it so fast, doesn't it? I mean, literally a few minutes and it's gone.
Yeah.
It is absolutely incredible. But you work with brilliant but exhausted professionals, don't you? That's how you say that.
Yeah, I do. And it tends to be females, but I do work with males also. But I think a lot of my clients, they sort of hit at a point in their lives where they're very, very successful. And they're on a bit of a plateau because they're very busy and very overwhelmed balancing everything in life. So it's almost like work takes up a massive chunk of their time. They're very committed. They usually overcommitted, overperform for various different beliefs that they're trying to overcome. Got a strong value of contribution, success, achievement. And also they carry that into their personal lives. But balancing that, then it's almost like you've got 20 plates spinning and you're just waiting for one of them to smash down. You just know, it's going to be some point, and you just think when one goes, they're all going to go. So the mindset then takes them to, I've got to do something here. So a lot of them will think, right, I feel like I need to step down a level. So I'm less senior, I have less to do, and then I'll have more give to spin all these plates. And that's not usually the answer. And others are ready to just say, right, I'm done. I need to hand in my notice and do something completely different, But the work we do with them then to understand their mindset and the beliefs that they got that keep them where they are. A lot of the time, alignment to your values, doing some internal alignment to what's important to them, realizing that it's safe, allows them to move on then. So I will say without a shadow of a doubt, every client I work with, I will put them through timeline therapy. We'll work on that with them. Takes a little bit of time, like I said. So we probably do 3 or 4 sessions doing other things, clearing, helping them to understand how their mind works, and then building the confidence with me. And then once we've done one sweep of the timeline, there's a big step change in their mindset, and we can work then, because once you've done the timeline work, the rest of the NLP work is much quicker. So you can go, as and you've already mentioned with the phobia models and things, we go very quick, very deep, quick, very deep, and you get really good results then in a short time. So and then they usually move on then. And most people, to be honest, will either stay where they are or go for another promotion then, because their mindset's completely changed. They change how they manage their energy and their mindset, and they're completely different people, as you know, at the end of all of that. You can't go back. It's a bit like blowing up a balloon. The balloon is really tight and nice shape when you start, and then you blow it up. So that represents the change. When it goes back, it can never go back to the old version. And that's how I describe it to people. You can't go back once you've gone through this process. You can't go back. And most people wouldn't want to. Why would you? And so
you mentioned values then, and I don't think a lot of people understand what values are, but it's so enlightening when you do know what your core values are, because it helps you make better decisions, doesn't it?
Oh, totally, totally. And in MBIT or M-braining, we talk about values because they're held at the heart level energetically. So the values sit in your heart and in the neurology of your heart. And they're held at the unconscious level, and they are what's important to you at an unconscious level, and they will be contextual. So you'll have personal values, work values, relationship values. So a lot of them, you'll have duplicates that they thread through them, but they can be very different sometimes depending on the context. But what's important about it is your behavior is driven by these values, and they're always satisfied. So knowing what they are, because a lot of the time in work, right, that client is saying like the job, I'm not happy in my job. But when we look at the values, it's clear because the values are not being met in the job. So sometimes we can just look within the job and say, okay, so these are the work values. Is it possible to match them in work? Because then you're going to be much happier. Or is there something else in work or aside of work, if you can do outside of work, that's going to achieve that? Because once your values are met, your happiness in life goes up, and you just feel more aligned with yourself. And it's a much calmer, regulated place to be when you're working to your values. I find people are a lot more focused, a lot more motivated, but at the same time, they're able to relax and be calm with themselves as well, because once your values are met, your nervous system is comfortable and it calms down, and it lets people be more creative then. Yeah, absolutely.
I often get my clients, because obviously gratitude's really big part of my life and what I teach.
Yeah.
Huge game changer. But when you're doing your gratitude list, if you can write how it makes you feel, so say you get a phone call from someone and that makes you feel connected, or you see someone and that makes you feel appreciated. It's all of these excuse me, all of these end up highlighting your values, because you'll see them coming up all the time. And then you get, the more you understand yourself, the more you can control what you manifest, can't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's really interesting you link that with feelings, because from the heart level, we know from neuroscience that we've got an electromagnetic field around our heart, and it's been proven to emit the feelings that we are feeling up to 9 feet away from us. So that's why when you pick up the sense of someone that's around you, you know the feeling, you get a bit of an ick sometimes, or a warm feeling. That's where that's coming from. So whatever you're feeling, you're emitting out into the world and into the universe. And I think when you know your values, you can be more strategic in your behaviors so they're achieved, and then you're emitting through that electromagnetic field the right frequency of feeling, and I think that links into manifesting then, because you're drawing to the what you're already emitting, if that makes sense.
Definitely. What do you think the link is between personal healing and becoming a better leader with the people that you work with?
I think personal healing comes from your balancing your internal system through your nervous system, and I think they are all linked so closely. And the modern world, I think, pushes us to be in our heads, because the head brain processes a lot faster than because I should explain, when I'm talking about end brain, and there's 3 brains, one in the head, one in the heart, one in the gut, and they've all got different jobs to do for us. And the gut is all about safety and core identity and movement. So if we're not doing something, it's usually about the gut. And we're forced almost in the modern world to be in our heads and our guts, because the head is all about rational thinking, data, logic, return on investment, that sort of stuff. And then the gut is about action. So you have to use the gut to make something happen. But more often than not, as long as it makes sense rationally, logically, financially, we jump in and do it from the gut. What we're missing, and especially from a leader perspective, is the involvement of the heart, which is all about processing emotions, where your values sit, and relational effect with yourself and to other people. So I think that's where, when we look at organizations, there's a massive gap with engagement, and we're pushing and drawing and motivating people to do more and more, to make more and more in the business, but we haven't engaged with them at a heart level. So they're not connected, they're not engaged, and then people are not motivated by that, because they'll be motivated by what's matching their values, and then they're not motivated if we're only using head and gut. So it's important, when I work with leadership, we look at it from a holistic point of view. And I work with a lot of third sector companies, and you see in that sector there's a lot more heart involved, usually because of the purpose of the business. It's not only about making money, it's helping people to do something. And I think when you've got leadership that they at least consider the heart concept and realize that there's always a people element to anything you do, especially in leadership. Once that comes in, the whole way they lead is completely different, and you can get levels of engagement. And we know that businesses that get high levels of engagement outperform other businesses by a big factor. That's scientifically proven many times. Then it's a massive benefit, not only just for the business, but the whole working environment changes, the culture changes, and you can align then the people's values and the organizational values. So it all comes together when you start using the heart. And it's not that difficult to do once you start doing it. It's a step change in culture. But the businesses I've worked with, as soon as they start doing that, you see a big change in leadership. Absolutely. It's a quick, I guess it's not really quick in that, like, you can do it by tomorrow, but it's an easy way for you to instantly start changing how you lead people, and they pick up on it. A heart-led leader is very, very different to somebody who's driven by numbers and punching it home. It's very different. Yeah.
Absolutely. There was a question in my free group the other week, and it was about ADHD, and somebody said, I have ADHD, can I even manifest? And my answer to that, and the reason I bring it up now, is because I know that you specialize with ADHD. Now, we have ADHD members in our family, and I know quite a lot of different people, and I've worked with a lot of different people who've got ADHD. I think all these labels autism, ADHD, whatever else. I'm not keen on labels. I'm not keen on putting people in boxes. Everyone's individual. I like to look at these as superpowers. And I think it's all about playing to your strengths and supporting your weaknesses. But there is so many people that have, the label or self-diagnosed label of ADHD, and they are fantastic manifestors. That makes them manifest in supercharge because they're so focused. And then on the back of that, the question went on to say, well, all I do is focus on my worrying. But worrying is a learned behavior. No baby comes into this life, knowing how to worry. I've never seen a baby lying in a cot, rocking in a corner of the cot, have you? They just don't do that.
Exactly.
They just scream and shout and get what it is that they want. It's something that we've learned to do. What's your take on all of that?
I think I know with ADHD, a lot of people are aggravated by the term superpower because I think they think it negates the negative side of it. But I think when you embrace that, and so I was late diagnosed. I was only diagnosed 2 years ago, so at the age of 55, so it's like, it's very new to me. And it was brought up to my attention by my daughter, who was researching it at the same time. And having the diagnosis and looking back, I think there were times when it caused me trouble, but I managed, because what we are very good at it as ADHDers is building strategies around it. So when you dismantled that and realized what the ADHD was doing, because I didn't realize it was there, and I think I would say, well, but everyone's like that, but it's not. And they reckon it's about 8% if that are neurodivergent if you look at it. But I reckon it's much more than that because of the undiagnosed people, and it's so difficult these days to get a diagnosis. That's why people are self-diagnosing, because when you know, and once I've got, so I was diagnosed, and then I trained as a coach, and then I trained as a neurodiverse workplace assessor and a few other things. And once you spot it everywhere, and you cannot see it, instantly, although we're not qualified to diagnose, you can see the traits very, very obviously, and you can help really quickly as well. But I think when you find something where ADHDers are driven by something, there's lots of things, but it's got to be novel, it's got to be interesting, it's got to be challenging, and when you find that, you will just go into it. So I did 2 degrees and a master's, and I loved my master's because with the master's, it's a small piece of information where you go very deep. And the ADHD kicks in then, and it's wonderful because it was a massive motivator. I'd print off thousands of journals, learn it all, and absorb all the materials. But what we also are good at is burning out then, because we're so focused, so driven, we use up all our energy on it, So, but it's about self-awareness. And I also teach meditations, and I'm ADHD. So people also say the same thing about meditation. Oh, my mind's so busy, I can't stop. But when you learn that meditation isn't about that, it's about, going into yourself and acknowledging that what's coming past and letting it go and all of that. It's about knowing yourself and what you focus on. So yes, there are big challenges with ADHD, and I could focus on those if I wanted to. But also, like you said, there are aspects of ADHD that make me outstanding, that where I'm head and shoulders above the rest of the competition. And that's where I put my effort, because there's little point focusing on something, what I've learned long-term in personal growth. I don't like to call them weaknesses. It's things that you don't enjoy, really, is where you're weak. And why would you do that? Why would you want to focus on that and develop that? Let's focus on the stuff that I'm really good at and go with that and be exceptional in that. And you can put your mind to anything, can you? And I think, especially with ADHD, if you find something that's really interesting, challenging, unique to you, and novel, you're gonna excel in it, because you've got that ability to focus on it. What we're not very good at it, if it doesn't tick that stuff, it's really difficult to motivate ourselves in that way. But it's a choice, isn't it? You get a choice in where you put your, because we know that where we put our focus is where the energy flows. Yeah. So put your focus where you want it to be.
Yeah. And that's how manifesting works. It's all about your energy. It's a vibration you're giving out. So if you're hyper focused on something, of course you're going to manifest it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think, neurodiverse people's or their minds, do you think they process stress and trauma differently?
Yeah, I do think that, and a lot of the science that if when you read around it is to do with the link in between the prefrontal cortex and the back of the mind, so the executive functioning, and it's really important about knowing yourself because it's easy, like you said, to put a label on someone and then generalize about how they function, but we're all individuals, neurodiverse or not, and it just adds another dimension of difficulty, I think, in terms of how it works and the communication between the two parts of the brains, what that looks like and how it impacts people is very different because it was never picked up with me because I didn't have the hyper part of it physically, so the naughty kids who can't sit still were typically ADHD. That wasn't me. I would sit, my mind would be hyperactive, so I was diagnosed combined, but I wasn't jumping around. I can sit there. I was the opposite, actually. I exhibited like females generally do, and they go internal and they're staring out the window. We're listening to things, but it's not stimulating enough. So we're listening to, I would be in a class and listening to everything the teacher said, but I'm out of the window daydreaming about something else. So they'd often stop and say, Jeff, and then ask a question, right? Thinking I wouldn't know because I'm looking out the window, but I would always be able to answer it because I'm absorbing the information. It's just not going at the right speed because I watch YouTube at 1.5 or 2 times the speed, so I just have to have information quicker. And when we know that, then that's where we can be. And I think sometimes we talk about energy getting stuck with us and trauma living in our bodies. That's absolutely true. And I think sometimes ADHD can keep you living in your head and stop you thinking about, and when we talk about the head and gut previously, is that because I think when you get into your body and understand the body and know where it's being held, sometimes you get pain in the body for holding emotions, don't you? And absorbing and observing your body gives you a better insight. But I think it's a bit more difficult for someone with ADHD because we tend to live up in the head for whatever reason. And I think it's quite the visual part sometimes people struggle with, because I know when I was doing NLP, people would say you can see a picture and move the picture, and I never saw a picture. It was just blank, it would be a black fuzz. But what we're talking about, what your mental image is, and I find it really difficult to get a mental image, and I know that a lot of ADHDers do as well. So there's lots of different ways that they process, but I think if you approach it in that everybody's individual, whether they're neurodiverse or not, and there'll be a right way for someone, and it's not cookie cutter. It won't work for the next person. Same as coaching. You can coach this person in a certain way, but this one needs a completely different approach. I think that's when you get the best results then. And as a person, realizing that you're individual and it's your responsibility to understand how your system works, that's when I think you get the best results from everything in life.
You see, both Corrie and I are both incredible manifestors, but we manifest so differently. So
Yeah.
I love to write and script and all of that. She can't stand doing that. She just sees it in her mind, and she's able to do all these pictures in her mind. But, we are all different. And this is why I don't like putting anyone in boxes and giving anybody labels, because it's just about, well, it starts with self-acceptance, doesn't it, really? And it's so important to do that. But I love that you mentioned, that we're all different. And, obviously we do very similar jobs, but with different sort of, clients. We both do NLP, we both do timeline, but I know we both do it differently because, obviously I do the timeline with other people, and I know I've had timeline with you and stuff. We do it differently, and it's because we're bringing different tools in. You've got your, set of tools. I've got mine. Like, I'm psychic, and I can see what's going on in, differently to what you can because of those skills. And I think it's really important that people find the right person to support them on their journey and help them get to where they want to be. But before we finish, I would love to try and explain a little bit about what timeline is, because it is a difficult process to explain to people. How do you describe it to someone who's never heard of timeline before?
I tend to use metaphors or analogies really because there is no science to it that we can explain. But I usually say, right, so it's important to know that the unconscious mind doesn't process negative emotions. And what I will do is just put it into a bin, or I use a bath of dirty water. It's quite gross the way I describe it. So I talk about a bath of dirty water. And as you go through life, that builds up and it builds up. And unless we've got a really good way of processing those emotions, and most of us haven't, to be fair, there'll come a point when that bath is overflowing. And that's when it starts to impact our lives. And I think that's the point where people start looking for answers. They'll go to coaching, they'll meet NLP, they'll try things, because once it starts overflowing, it starts impacting your life in a negative way. So my description of timeline therapy is this: we go in and pull the plug on that, so all of that negative emotion can just go away. We give it a good scrub. We can clean it all so it's all shining. And then we give you the tools you need to keep that bath really shiny, so it never has to get full again. And so that's the story I tell, that so they can put to it. But basically, it's getting rid of the big five: anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt are the negative emotions. But the other side of that is they are the high level emotions. And underneath all of those are hundreds of micro versions of those, like frustration, irritation, all the rest of them. So although you get rid of the big five, it's like cutting the chains of those, lets all those hundreds of negative emotions fall away. So people often say they feel lighter, they feel cleaner, they feel fresher. And I think that's why I use the bath analogy, because it links to cleanliness of your emotions. That's what it feels like to me. It's like an offloading, putting your bags down, getting rid of stuff. And it's not that we're not feeling those emotions anymore. Because when I was doing it, I was worrying they were going to turn me into like a numb person who doesn't feel anything anymore. But we always got to remember, it's only focusing on the unwarranted and the inappropriate. So we don't need to, because it clouds everything. It's like you've got all this fuzziness of negative emotions. And a lot of the time, and I know for me, when I finished it, my vision felt better. I could see the bark on the trees and the leaves clearer. It's almost like a literal cleansing and clarification. That's what it felt like for me. And for me, overnight, the self-talk stopped, to the point where there's nothing there, good nor bad, and it panicked me. And I rang the trainer and I was like, oh my God, I can't hear anything. Is that right? And she said, what did you ask for? What did you want when you went into it? And I was like, yeah, for that to stop. But it took a few hours then for the positive affirmations and the new thinking to pop in. And then all the things that I talked about in Timeline about being, all the positive things, they came in, and that's my self-talk now. So it completely changes your self-talk, gives you a really good cleanse of everything that you've been dragging around that you don't need to drag anymore. The learning is always there, and the experience, you can't wipe the experiences off. Who would want to, because they're your memories. But you feel fresher, cleaner, motivated, just such clarity that comes from it. That's how I describe it.
Yeah, unstoppable and untriggerable are the two most common ones I hear from my clients.
Oh, nice. I love that. Yeah, absolutely that. And because the peaks and troughs have gone from those emotions. So you still feel them, but you're not feeling them really strongly and then down in the dumps. You haven't got those extremes. So it would make sense those words come out. Yeah, love that. I'll steal them from you if that's all right.
I'm thinking about borrowing your bath, to be honest.
Yeah. Great.
So obviously in our connections, you now connect with your angels, don't you?
Yeah. Since you told me all about it, God, years ago now, isn't it? I remember coming back to, it was this office. I've been in this office for 6 years now. And you said about connecting with your angels and said what to do with it. And I sat at the desk and I thought it was a trick, because I closed my eyes and I'm just connecting. And I opened my eyes and I could see like little sparkles. And I'm like, that's not right. Because I'm a 3 times convincer. I know that from all of my training. So I'm closing my eyes again and connecting. And it happened 3 times. Oh my God, I'm really convinced with this, And I do it all the time. I always ask my angels questions. I'm connecting with them all the time. And this year was an awesome example. And it's the biggest result I've had with it, because I was coming to my financial year for the business runs to July. And there was a figure I needed for the accountant to be really comfortable. I won't tell you what the number is, but it's a number I needed to get into the business in 2 months, right? And it was more than I'd ever earned previously, ever, by a long way. And I just said to my angels about it and asked them for their help. And like, I'm willing to do the work. It's like, I don't just leave it to you, but just guide me in there. And well, more than that, probably 3 weeks before the date that it was due, a figure landed in my bank account that was the number I was asking for. And it took away all the financial stress of last year. And I put that all down to my angels. So, and there's loads of other little things along the way. And it's a real resource. I think about it, right? Because sometimes it can be a bit woo-woo, kind of, and but I think it's a real resource. And when you tap into that, fascinating things can happen. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm so pleased that you found them.
Yeah. Use them all the time. Use them all the time. And I've started to name them now, because it sounds, sometimes when they speak to me, it's a familiar voice. And I get the same. I don't know if it's, I have to ask you, is it the same angel? I don't know, but it sounds the same. And I name some of them because some of the voices are different. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. Well done, you. You. So it's been lovely talking to you today. One last question. What's lighting you up in your work right now?
What's lighting me up in my work is connecting the dots between your neurology, your neurodiversity, and your belief system. So bringing all of that together, it's been a bit of an evolution, I guess. I think it's where all the skill sets, because if anyone who does coaching, once you do one modality, you end up doing 20, because you just want to know, and you never know enough. I think it's drawing the dots between those and it all coming together and realizing that you can help so many people just by speaking this stuff and sharing it. So I don't have to work with people one-to-one. There's lots of different channels that I'm putting stuff out on, and connecting with your true self to make that come to life. So that's what's lighting me up, is helping myself using these techniques and then helping others with it.
Wow. Thank you for that, Jeff. It has been so good catching up with you, having a chat with you, hashing it all out. It's been great that you've been able to come on. So thank you for that. And I hope the people that are listening or watching, if it's on YouTube, got lots from this episode too. So do let us know. I'm going to put all your contact details in the show notes so people can get in touch with you.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So after that lovely chat with Jeff, let's see what the angels want us to know. Now, this is going to be for the 4th to the 10th of August. I'm going to pull a card per day. Cards just don't feel ready yet, so bear with. Oh, look, they're getting all a little bit twisty too. Okay. So we're going for 7 cards for 7 days. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more, 7. Okay, the cards feel a little bit hiddledy-piddledy this week, a little bit up and down, and it is about almost surfing, riding that energy. It feels like we need to sort of keep our focus on where we're going and not get distracted. The first card of the week, it is the time card. This is for the Monday. The time card is talking about it's time. It's time to make sure that you have got everything in order. All the things that you've been putting off and not doing, it's time to absolutely do those. Look out for number synchronicities as one of your signs as well. So make sure you're dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure everything is in order. Everything feels like it needs to be written down. You need a list. You need a list to get you through the week. The next card for the Tuesday is Gabriel. Gabriel is the archangel that gives us all those good ideas, helps in families, helps with communication. If you're needing that sort of help, do call upon Gabriel, ask them to come in and help you. But those ideas that you've got coming into your head that you're like, I have no idea where that's come from, that's from your angels. And it's time to action them, because when you do on the Wednesday, there feels like it's a light, floaty energy. It feels exciting. It's all about a new life starting for you. So make sure that you do action those plans from Tuesday, because on Wednesday it's going to start the ball rolling for that new life. Little birds is a real big sign for you this week as well, as are little white feathers. And moving on to Thursday, this is the romance card, but I'm not seeing this as love and romance and swinging from chandeliers. I am seeing this as passion, that new life, those things that you want, those things that you've been desperate to manifest are starting to come into your life. This is the passion. This is the energy that you need to work with to manifest what it is that you want. And Friday is a reminder to trust and wait and see. It's all getting organized. You've got to keep the energy going. You've got to keep the faith going, because it's all getting sorted for you. And look out for messages in cloud formation. On Saturday, we're feeling our knees are knocking a little bit. We're feeling a little bit wobbly, because this is the up and down energy of the week. But this is where you've got to dig deep. You've no idea how close you are to manifesting what it is that you want. So don't feel you're blocked. Don't feel you're stuck. Just know you're exactly where you're meant to be. And those things that you're wanting are coming, but you've got to hold the energy in place. And on Sunday, be really gentle with yourself so that you can move even closer to those things that you want. It's all happening. It might feel a little bit of a wobbly, rough week. Hang on, you've got this. Have a great week. Let me know what you're taking from this. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for leaving reviews. I so appreciate it. Till next time, bye for now. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If so, please hit follow and share my message by sharing with your friends. It would be amazing if you can leave a review. All this will help, and it activates the universal law of the more you give, the more you receive. So it's a win-win. You can find more good stuff between episodes over on social media. Just search The Angel Mystic on Facebook, Instagram or TikTok, or check out the links in the show notes. I'd love for you to connect more over in my free group in Abundance Manifesting, all on Facebook. Hope to see you there.